So we're going to be looking at succulents today. We're going to talk about what they are. We're going to talk about dividing, care, and propagation, and making a plan and making it fun. And I have a lot of really fun ideas and recommendations and suggestions. Just some fun things that you can do with succulents. I'll piggyback off of Gary. We have our fantastic Master Gardener plant sale in May. We'll have hanging baskets, veggies, berries and grapes, herbs, perennials, annuals, succulents, crafts, and Tomato City. So we're going to just kind of look at what a succulent is. Basically, you'll recognize some of these as we go through the slides. I'm sure you've seen them in your yard or maybe at the flower shop or at the greenhouse, or maybe you have one at your place already. They're really basically drought-resistant plants. They've adapted to their environments. They store water in their leaves and stems and roots, and they look fleshy and plump. Succulents do thrive on neglect and can go a while with dry soil. They store their own water, but cacti are also succulents, but not all succulents are cacti. So we got some outdoor stuff in here, the two on the middle and left side. The one on the left is a sedum.
Heidi,
Yeah.
we can no longer see the screen. It did something. You might stop it and then come back in again for some. Up there it is.
Okay.
And and you're not into presenter mode just yet. At least we're not seeing it. For some reason, when you go in presenter mode, we lose it. So
that's so weird. Okay.
We'll just leave it like this. But yeah,
let me try to go a little bigger. I'm sorry. I told you guys I'm learning this darn computer. This is as big as I can get, and I'll get some help. My husband's an IT manager, so I'll ask him for help.
Okay, we can see the slides though. That's great.
Okay, sorry guys. Okay, so the left one is a sedum. You might have seen that in your yard. This variety it comes in ground cover. It comes in something that's about a medium high, like 6 inches tall, and up to like 3 feet tall. And the one in the center is more of a ground cover. It's going to be really, really short, like maybe 3 inches. And then hen and chicks on the right, kind of your classic. This is probably a color you see sometimes now that it seems like the greenhouses are getting more varieties and colors. And you can do inside or outside on these. And you're going to use the outside. If you're going to plant them outside, you're going to be mixing in sand with your soil. You could mix perlite in there and get that part near the bottom of where you're planting, and then get your soil and sand on top of that. And then for indoor 50-50, I would recommend the perlite and your soil. We want everything to drain really well. All right. Now, succulents come from different parts of the world. Most of the stuff that we get comes from South Africa, actually. About 50% of all succulents in the world come from here. And Madagascar, Mexico, the American Southwest, the Canary Islands, Asia, and the Alps. So these are the perfect environment for these plants to thrive. So if you were visiting any of these places, you would see them in their glory and the huge. Some areas they are considered a weed, if you can believe it. So we went to San Diego in January for a week, and we went to the botanical garden there in Balboa Park. And that's my daughter's hand next to a hen and chick. And all of these plants are in relation to her hand. Huge. It was just really cool to see everything. And then, of course, this is just a general landscape outside our hotel. We get checked in and we're rolling our bags to a different building, and we run into this beautiful little landscape with all these different succulents. Everything in this picture except the tree is a succulent. My husband thought I was kind of bananas just for taking a picture of this, but I was just in awe of the beauty. I'm really a big fan. All right. So if you haven't done anything with succulents before, some good beginner succulents would be like your jade plant and your kalanchoe. You might recognize these. and then the aloe vera, and then Christmas cactus. You get Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, and they all bloom. They also make really good gifts too because they're really, really easy to take care of. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more a little bit later. Got to make sure I know what side I'm on. Snake plant. They have all different kinds of different snake plants and shapes. I resisted my temptation to buy one that's called a whale tail because it's like 48 bucks for one leaf. But maybe someday I'll treat myself. But these are easy, really easy to propagate too. String of pearls. There's string of dolphins, string of hearts, string of turtles. All of those are really easy. And it's just a little bit different. Instead of being a plant worth a center with some other leaves coming around the outside, it's more of a string trail. So it can add some interest and some dimension to anything you're putting together. So if you want to get something going here, just make your plan. What do I want to do? Do I want something inside? Do I want something outside? Do I want to use real or fake? What do I have around the house? And then what containers do I want to use or should I use? And what supplies do I need? So Goodwill, garage sales, your neighbors. I think everybody knows somebody that has a few pots hanging out. So these are just some varieties I picked up at the Goodwill store. This was one trip. I think all of this cost me like $5, $5.50 for all of this. And then these are real succulents. These are the real deal. This one right here is kind of neat. We're seeing more of those coming in to the greenhouses. It's called a split rock. These are here, ice plant, and we've got this little aloe vera right here. And then these are fake. I picked these up at Michael's. So they do have some really nice succulents that are they're fake. And if that's something you'd rather, like if you have a pet or a little kid around that might get into some stuff, you can start here and then later on go with the real stuff. So my project, I decided to use this ice cream cone. It's false craft. It's you can bake in it typically and bake your cake and then put something on top of it in there. But I just thought it'd be really cute with this aloe vera in there. And I actually picked that up for $1. So you're going to wash your container, make sure you have everything clean, and then you're going to get a closer look at your plant. And if you need to take off any dry or dead sections, you can do that by just twisting if it's big enough, or use tweezers to remove. And then you'll want to inspect your plant too before you get ready to do anything with it. So you want to wash your hands, wash your workspace and your tools before and after. I just did it in the counter in my kitchen. And then it's a small project, so I just need some small tools. I have a little small trowel that I use. I picked that up right there at Walmart. And then if I'm working outside, obviously I'm going to have a bigger trowel because it's going to be a bigger job. I had a bowl so I can mix my soil and my perlite. And then I use a soup spoon. A lot of times I'll scoop in some dirt with my little trowel, and then I'll get my plant in there and I'll use a soup spoon to get the rest of the dirt around the plant. And then my tweezers, and I just get everything gathered up before I'm going to start on my project. So mixing your soil, the perlite and the soil will be 50-50, and that's for really good drainage. The container I chose does not have a drain hole. So if you have a container with a drain hole and a tray and a saucer, you can water from the bottom and just water from the bottom, and it'll take everything up. And if you're watering from the top, you just want to make sure that you're not overwatering or watering directly on your plant. So you'll get your plant container with your soil and your perlite and leave room for your plant. And then you're going to use the same soil line that your plant was already at when you took it out of your nursery pot. So that depends on the container that you're going to use. Some grow a little slower than others. And then you're going to want to inspect it, make sure there's no dead leaves or anything that maybe if there's something bushy on there, if they overwatered it at the greenhouse, which does happen sometimes. As a general rule, not very many pests are really interested in your succulents. There's a chance you might see a mealybug or an aphid, maybe, but it doesn't happen that much. Even less common, maybe a spider mite or a fungus gnat. If there's a fungus gnat in there, that means you probably got something mushy in here. You need to get out of there because it'd been overwatered. So I'll get my plant all ready to get in there, and I'll put in my plant in the container, real similar to potting any house plant at your house that you have done. Get your soil and top it off and make sure it's at your soil line here from your nursery pot. And then this is, everything's all finished up. And then I like to embellish mine. You can do anything you want. I'll have some recommendations and suggestions later here too. But I just put some white sand in here, but it just is, it's just adorable, all finished up here. And then, so hen and chicks, probably your most common succulent that you're going to see for inside or outside. They're really easy to take care of. They send out their little chick babies with these little arms. They're just going to send out a stem with a chick baby. And as long as they have room to spread out, they're going to meander. So if you have them outside, they're going to just keep going. And if you are looking to kind of get some multiple plants out of one, you can just take a leaf off and pop it in your pot. I've got my perlite and my soil here. And then I had a couple of these little stems. I just popped the stems in from these little babies too. So same space, you're going to want to use your perlite and your soil 50-50. And then I usually take, if I'm pulling a leaf off or a stem, I'm going to have it sit maybe 2 to 3 days on a paper towel away from direct sunlight, and then get my soil mix ready. I do use honey as my ridding hormone. You can use aloe vera gel, apple cider vinegar, cinnamon powder, or willow water is an easy one. Willow water, basically you're going to be soaking 8-inch willow stems, like 6 to 8, in a glass of water overnight, and you can use that water. The honey you would have to have ready before, because you have to boil it 2 cups of water and a tablespoon of honey. When it cools off, you're going to want to set it for about 2 weeks before you use it. But once you get everything in, you're going to just want to give it a little light drink of water about every 2 weeks to get things going here. So there's a lot of cool things about succulents. They're not just a yard decoration, but there's a lot of neat things people are doing. They're doing little fairyscapes. We've got some little inserts in here with the little fairy and the little house and this little owl and this little mushroom and a little bit of rocks here to make it look like there's a bridge over water. And then this is like a little Zen garden. One of the neat things that you can do is put some different types of succulents together. Some are taller, and then here's your string of pearls that are hanging over, and then just some different heights and interesting things in your containers. You can pretty much use most any container. Just be mindful of the watering. If it's in a container, you just don't want it to get soaking wet and stay that way. And this is kind of neat here. They've got some different rows of different heights and different textures. And just in a big bowl is all they're using here. I'm probably too big of a fan of Pinterest. I grabbed these off of Pinterest, and this is just a candle holder. So they got a candle holder here. They don't have a candle in it. They have their soil in some different heights, very small succulents in here. This is probably only about 4 to 6 inches square. And then some decorative rocks. And then those teacups that you love that you're not sure if you're going to use them. They might make a fun gift or a fun thing to make for your house. And then this little bird cage. We've got some trailing succulents. It looks like they've got it filled up to about this line here, and they've got their soil and perlite and maybe a little bit of moss in there. And then they've got some different types and sizes with this little trailing guy here. So outside too, I've got my son's old dump truck, and I decided that I want to do something with it, and I'm going to have it in my garden. So I popped in some goodies in here, put some rocks kind of near the back, just kind of like a typical dump truck. It's got stuff in it, but it's also got a load of rocks in here. And then a few of these I took off of Pinterest as well. The boots, the boots blend in so nice. They're kind of getting trendy, as well as the chair. So there's a container here, and they've put this fake moss on the outside, and they have everything in here just as a decoration out in the yard. And this is a picture frame with a deep back and hung outside. Oops, I almost took that off of there. Hung outside. You can just, it's got screen on the back, and very fine screen with dirt and perlite and a little bit of moss tucked in. You would just take it off the fence and lay it down on its bottom and give it a good drink of water. And this is a clear glass container. I wasn't sure about this, but I looked up they have a cactus and then this form of aloe. They can take soil and perlite, but it doesn't have to be necessarily very, very heavy on the perlite. But they did kind of make it interesting by doing a layer with the white sand and the dirt. This big shell would be kind of neat for, just your table or a wedding reception. This has some little inserts you can buy online, these little octopus arms in there. This is a pretty small pot. It's only like a 6-inch pot. So it's just kind of adorable. And then this was a spice rack. It used to have spices in it, and now it's got some little baby succulents. But look at all the colors too that you can get. There's so many colors out there now. So this was another picture from San Diego. So we just thought this was the coolest thing at the botanical garden. They just took their hidden chicks and got everything, and they put it. They kind of followed the curve of the dirt next to the walking path. This is like 6 or 7 feet long. So cool. So cool. Broken pot. That's okay. Think about all the neat things you could do. They used they kind of did a little fairyscape in here, and they used a really, really small, short succulent to put in here. And then this is actually a picture. I snipped it from a big, it was a pretty good size container next to a fountain at Balboa Park in San Diego. And they've got all these different rows and things going around, but they also added in some perennials to go in here. So to kind of supplement the color throughout the year. And then the triple pot, there's a lot of ideas out there to use that for different things. You can do that with your succulents. Get your extra pots out. If you have kind of a half broken pot or a pot you don't love, put it upside down under one of these two pots and go up a little bit. Add some interest inside or outside on your deck. Same. This is a broken pot in this bigger pot, and it looks like everything is spilling out. But the mix of colors, or if you like things to be uniform, both look beautiful and pleasing to the eye. And then this little fairyscape, this is a pretty good size one here. This is about 7 inches tall. And then we get smaller, shorter, shorter, and then adding a little rocks in here under the bridge to make it look like there's water. And just some other cute ideas. This is just a pot, and it has some different sizes in here and different shapes and styles. Just a glass bowl, cereal bowl of this typewriter. They took the guts out and they got their suitcase that it came in on the bottom, and they have their perlite and their dirt in a like a rectangle container in here, and they have all of their plants coming in and just kind of taking over. And then this is a wood, a hollowed out piece of wood. It was a serving bowl. I saw this at a gift shop here up in Squim. We went up to Squim in January, and this was in a gift shop in there. It was like a serving bowl type thing, and they went ahead and put in the perlite, the soil, and the moss, and just popped these in. It's really cute. They had a bunch of them. And then just a regular drinking glass or a candle holder would be for a tiny scape or just one small plant. Some of the plants you can get at the nursery are pretty tiny. And you'll want to up pot at least once a year. You'll want to repot and check everything over. And then these are some little tea tins. So if you like to go to the beach, the river, you like driftwood, you can do that absolutely. And just want to make sure that you wash it down really good with your hose on both sides. Let them dry out in the sun for a few days, and make sure everything looks okay. And then you can do your project. Use your sand and your perlite and your soil mix for outside, and then get your plants in, and it'll be fine out there. If you want to do something inside, I would definitely just make sure that it's super, super dry. And then bring it inside, put it in your garage, or if you have like an enclosed porch, put it in a cardboard box. Just make sure there's not anybody that's going to hitchhike into your place. So some of the neat things that I've picked up and that we've done for embellishments, the sequins, the sand, different colors of sand, and the decorative rocks. These are things you can pick up at Lowe's or Home Depot. And then the pretty glass balls that you can pick those up at the dollar store or pretty much any place that sells craft supplies. And then seashells are cute in there too. They've even got a lot of mini things out there. Some of the stuff I've got picked up at Michael's, the little furniture and the little fairies and the little garden supplies here. So indoor succulents really don't require a lot of maintenance. You don't have to water them as much as you do all the other things that you have in your house for indoor houseplants. And then again, if it's in a container, but it does not have a drain hole, you just want to make sure you don't overwater. Depending on how big your pot is or how big your plant is, a couple tablespoons is going to be plenty of water. And then if you have a container with a saucer under it, then you're going to want to go ahead and water from the bottom up. Do not use a mister. I'm going to say this twice. Do not use a mister on your indoor ones. So you'll have to think about how deep your roots are going into your container. They really don't like their feet wet. So overwatering can be a problem. It's probably the biggest cause of fatalities for succulents. It can make everything, the roots brittle or moldy. And then you'll want to start with maybe 1 to 3 tablespoons of water every week, depending on how big your container is. If it's warmer out, like right now, if you're planting something right now inside, then you'll probably want to do maybe every week, 1 to 3 tablespoons a week. And then when fall gets here, maybe go every 3 to 4 weeks. And then they do need to be fed. You can mix any well-balanced water soluble, something you mix with water with a lower nitrogen content. So you'll do half the recommended strength. So if you have a recipe where you're putting a tablespoon in a quart of water, do half a tablespoon in that quart of water. And then you can do probably maybe every 4 to 6 weeks in the spring and summer. You can do in the winter a couple times, but you wouldn't have to as much. So a few more fun things about succulents. Aloe vera and snake plants help purify the air. A study done by NASA in 2023 found that snake and aloe plants can remove up to 90% of certain toxins from a small room within 24 hours. So worth it. Beautiful and good for you. Feng Shui experts say succulents absorb negative energy and in turn pushes out positive energy. And then the lifespan of a succulent depends on the species, but some can actually live for decades. Some of the succulents that I saw down at Balboa Park in San Diego are 10 years old. And some of the things that you're going to buy in a nursery up here are probably could be up to 3 years old and still be only a 4-inch plant. So it kind of depends on which species they are and which where they originated. There's about 60 different plant families that contain succulents within, and then you can find them in just about every color of the rainbow. A Christmas cactus is actually the succulent version of a poinsettia, and they do have their built-in sunscreen already. All right, I'm going to take a stab at saying this. It's called farina or epicuticular wax. It kind of looks like a chalky dusting. Sometimes you see that kind of in the center of some of the hen and chicks. But it might add a little bit of a gray or white color, but it's best to leave it and not wash it off. The smaller leaf on a plant means the higher the elevation of its native origin. Remember when we talked about the Alps? And then they are prehistoric plants. They emerged 5 to 10 million years ago. And there are 1,300 cacti in the succulent family. I do have my resources on here. A lot of the pictures and things that are on here, I did myself, but I did go to Mind Body Green and Next Gardener to get some facts, and then just some source possibilities for purchasing locally here. We have a lot of great local nurseries and photo shops, and then of course our big garden centers. And then there's some supplies for these things. Of course, Joann Fabrics is closing. So, but I think they'll be around for a little bit longer. And then to find any workshop that you see on our noon workshops, you're going to be able to go right to our website. I have this in the chat too, so that you can go find anything. We've got stuff from last year still in there coming forward from now. Usually our gal has everything uploaded within a couple days after we get them done, so you can review them if you miss something or feel like I went zooming through it too fast.